Good morning, E39 source. Today I'm going to be explaining how to install a new steering wheel in your E39 5 Series. Today I'm going to be removing this steering wheel and replacing it with a 2002 M5 steering wheel. This is the 540i M Sport, so it has the sport steering wheel already. However, this one isn't in too good of shape. You can see some cracking up there, and just some reasons I decided to replace it. So, in this video, I will be removing this steering wheel, taking the buttons from this steering wheel, putting them on the new steering wheel, and putting the new steering wheel in its place. The first thing you need to do is you need to get in your car and you need to start it. Then, you need to turn your steering wheel to the right, that much. The tools you need for this job are a T30 Torx bit and a regular Phillips or flathead screwdriver. Now, the Torx bit is a T30. You can buy it at any local hardware store. I bought this one for around $6, and it goes right on this ratchet. The next step of the install process is to disconnect your battery. The reason we're disconnecting our battery is because we do not want the airbag light going on. My airbag light is already on, but for a different reason. Not anything to do with the steering wheel, as you can see over there. So I do not want any airbag light errors to do with the steering wheel, so I'm going to disconnect my battery once I shut the car off and get this going. Now that our battery is safely disconnected, we can move on to the next step. Before you start this, make sure your steering wheel is the whole way toward you, using this lever down here. I did this right before I disconnected the battery, so make sure you do the same. There are two Torx bits on the back of the steering wheel. Let me see if I can show you here. There is one right here, right down here, and another one in the same place on the bottom. You will need to take these Torx bits out to get the airbag out. Alright, so once you get the top screw out, you're going to need to turn your steering wheel around again. So you're going to need to reconnect your battery, put the key in the ignition, turn the engine on, and turn the steering wheel. This is the only way I can find. There's not enough room underneath on the bottom to get it, so you need to use the bit on the top. So just make sure your airbag stays connected. You shouldn't have an issue with any airbag warning lights, and you should be fine. Now that I have turned my steering wheel around, I can do the same with the right hand side. To get your airbag out after you take these two screws out, you simply pull it out toward you. It's going to weigh about 3 pounds, so watch out, don't let it fall, because if you do, you'll rip this cable. Basically, this little cable here, located right here, has a simple push toggle on it. This little push toggle pushes into this hole, so to remove this airbag, you just move it out with one hand, take your other hand, reach back here, squeeze this little clip right here and pull out. It comes right out. Just don't yank it out or you may break it. Alright, so something I didn't foresee was the fact that this steering wheel is rather deep. So I cannot simply take this and put it right in here. It just doesn't work. So, what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to use this extender. Pretty simple, right? Just going to extend the socket to the driver, and this should work theoretically pretty well. So I will make sure under this video I have a list of all the parts you're going to need to do this install, so you know exactly what you need, since I don't. I have been fighting with this bolt. I just couldn't get enough torque on it with this socket wrench, with these extenders to get it in here perfectly. I couldn't do it. I could not get the amount of torque I needed on this socket wrench. So what I did was I went in my basement and I found, let me see if I can get it here, this. It is basically a piece of PVC piping about 2.5 feet long. Threw it right over the handle of the socket, fit right on, and I opened my door, stood right outside, held it on with one hand, and basically cranked from about out here, and I got the bolt off. So if you have a problem with your bolt being too tight from the factory, use this. It will most definitely help you. So now with that bolt out, just finish unscrewing it, take it right out. It looks just like this. Put it somewhere safe, and our steering wheel should be free. Now as you can see here, note that these lines, one here and one here, are the alignment for our steering wheel. When I put this back on, I'm going to need to match up those lines. So I don't need to use a Sharpie since mine is already marked. We can just move on to the next step. If yours is not marked, at this point I would recommend taking a Sharpie and just putting a little mark here and a little mark here, and then you can line up your steering wheel. So when you put it on, it won't be crooked. You will note that since I've taken the steering wheel off, which basically just required a little bit of force to pull it off, I have also replaced the turn signal stock, which the BC button in mine was not functioning. So I replaced the turn signal stock, and now I'm going to go and attempt to figure out how to take these buttons off this steering wheel and swap them onto the M5 steering wheel. Alright, so essentially what you want to do is now be very, very careful. Take a flathead screwdriver, and basically there are little pockets in here that you can squeeze the screwdriver in. Start on here, you can see M logo, start on the bottom on both sides. I already took this side off. Start on the bottom, start right here, pry this out. Then start here, and just slowly. It'll take about 5 minutes, maybe a little bit less if you're really good at this, but just take it really slowly. So this is the new steering wheel that I'm going to be installing. Here's the old one. So what I'm going to do after I get this button out, I'm going to take these buttons out, put these buttons on here because they're in much better condition, and we'll see how that install process goes with the buttons. Alright, here's an example of what you don't want to happen. These each have 4 clips. One here, one here, one here, and one there. So essentially, I broke one of them off. No big deal. I think this will still sit in here fine. However, in the future, I plan on replacing this and the other side anyway, because they are not in, great shape. They're in okay shape, but they're not in great shape. I'm not too worried about this. It'll still sit in there fine, but I'm sure if you broke more than one of them off, you're going to have issues. So, again, take your time and don't screw up. And I hope you learn from my mistake. So with the new steering wheel and the old buttons, I'm going to essentially reconnect these wires and pop these back in. These clips look like they'll clip in pretty easily. So I'm just going to pop these back in, and I'll get back to you then. Alright, I was right. They simply clip in. Just be careful with them again, because those clips are fragile. It's not going anywhere. It's tight in there. So if you break one clip, that is definitely fine. On this side, it's a little tricky. The wire coming out of this socket needs to go quickly behind here. It's going to be a little of a nuisance. Take your time and do it right. Don't ruin the wires. So, now I'm going to reinstall the steering wheel on the stock. Make sure the little line right here at the bottom is lined up. Alright, now that we have our steering wheel back on, we can take our bolt, thread it right in, and tighten it up. Once you have your bolt sufficiently tightened, re-plug in your wires, and put your airbag back in. To put your airbag back in, you simply take your airbag, line it up with where it needs to be, reach around with your other hand, plug in the wires into that connector right there, and then simply follow a reverse procedure with the Torx bits in the back to get the airbag fully installed in the steering wheel. And we are done. So, install of the M5 steering wheel in the 540i went pretty well. I had a few little issues. When you're reinstalling the airbag, don't tighten the one side down the whole way before you move on to the other side. So you're going to have to start your car about 3 to 4 times during the install process. Just make sure the airbag connector is inserted into the steering wheel plug. Also, make sure that when you're routing the wires behind the airbag, there's 2 little spots right here and here. They are springs for the horn. Make sure that there are no wires overlapping these little circular holes, one right here on the steering wheel itself. Check that out before you install this, or your steering wheel horn will not have the feedback that it had before. So, other than that, I love the multicolored stitching around the edge. It's a great touch to this M-inspired car. So, with that said, thanks for watching. I hope I helped some of you. I hope I gave you some helpful tips, and you can use them in the future. Thanks again. See you in the next video.